Hi everybody, welcome to episode 21 of the Brownie Knits podcast. I'm your host Gina, aka Brownie Knits. It is the end of July in 2015. It's been very hot here the last few days, and we've had, I think I heard right the other day, the forecaster said that it was our rainiest month, not just our rainiest July on record, but our rainiest month on record. I totally believe that. It's been insane. So, but that's made for a lot of knitting time, which is good, right? So in this episode, I'm going to show you a few finished project bags that I made, and then talk a little bit about some new projects that I've started. We're going to talk about our next giveaway and a few other bits here and there, and then answer a few podcast questions. So, all right, I hope you have some knitting or crochet or cross stitch or sewing, whatever you like to do. I hope that you have that with you and are ready to enjoy a little knitting chat, crochet chat, sewing chat. So, okay, what should I start off with? I'll start off with the what's been going on. I've been doing a lot of design work. For those of you who watch the podcast, you know I've been working on a design of hats that I'm hoping to self-publish as an ebook this fall, and it's been really stressful. So I decided that what I'm going to do actually is, all along I was planning on releasing these hats as an ebook and where you could buy each hat separately, hat pattern separately. So what I've decided to do is go ahead and release a portion of the hats this fall and winter, and those will be available, starting probably in September, and then that will give me all of next spring and summer to do the other designs and really just kind of get the book all together the way that I want it for release next fall or winter. So I think that'll work out better for me. I don't like to be stressed, and just try to manage that as much as possible. I had enough of that in my life, so I don't want any more of it. But it's been really fun. I have one hat that I just finished the pattern for that I'm so excited about. It's so cute. And then I'm also excited for the knitting collaboration that we will have in October between my podcast and the A Knitter's Life podcast with Christina Wall. We've each designed a new pattern that kind of go together, and we'll be releasing those for sale in October. We'll have a joint podcast or two. We'll do some giveaways, so I hope you guys will join us for those as well. So there's so much to talk about and show starting in like September, but it's really hard because right now there's not a huge amount of that I can show you. So I sat down the other day and decided that I was going to write out this list of everything I wanted to do for the rest of the year. And of course it's only July, and there will be other things I see that I'll want to make, but I thought, okay, I'm just going to get these all out of my head because they've been spinning around and talking and their little voices to me. So I wrote them all down and then started some of them. So I'm going to show you a few of those today and a few in our podcast next week. So usually I podcast every 2 weeks, but in July there were 5 weeks, and I couldn't just keep to a 2-week schedule where I'd release this one and then not one next week, because next week's podcast is our Block 8 episode for the Brownie Knits 2015 Block Blanket Along. So I'm actually going to have a podcast now, and then I'll have a podcast next week. So I wrote everything down, and I'm going to kind of split up my huge laundry list, and it's even then you'll only see about 25% of what I want to do for the rest of the year. It's kind of really sad, but it makes you happy, so I guess it's not sad, right? But what I have finished doing, well, before I get into that, what's been going on just in life in general, we had, as I mentioned in the last podcast, we've had like visitors after visitor. We hosted my sister-in-law for an evening, which was so much fun. I don't get to see her that often, and she's technically not yet my sister-in-law, but she's my sister-in-law. She is my brother-in-law, so my husband's brother's fiance. And they used to live literally 2 minutes down the road, and we would walk every day and we would chat, and just, we have a lot in common and we would get along really well. And then because of job situations, they moved about 3 hours away. And so I don't get to see her or my brother-in-law all that often. So it was really nice to just have an evening to chat with her and catch up and spend some time together. And then a couple days after that, my brother and his family came up and they wanted to go to the zoo, which was fine. Indianapolis has a pretty nice zoo, actually. But every single time that we go to the zoo, whether it's with my brother's family or whoever, like it's a lot of people will come and see us and want to do that. Every single time, it is the hottest day of the year. I swear, I feel like it could be in December and it would still be the hottest day of the year. So it was in the high 90s in the temperature, and the heat index was 107. And I thought I was going to die. It was so hot. Even when you would go into, the only place that actually felt cool was the oceans area, which is where they have the penguins and stuff. But even that, there were so many people packed in there because it was the only place to go that was cool, that it didn't feel as cool as normal. So we sweated off a lot of calories that day. And we did get to see the little koala exhibit that the zoo is hosting until I think September. And they usually sleep all day. But one of them was awake and was moving around when we went in. So that was kind of fun to see. I love little koalas. I used to have a little koala bear that I would carry around when I was little. And my brother, he's 8 years younger than me, but he still remembered that too. I thought that was interesting. But it was fun. My little nephew enjoyed seeing all of the animals, and then we hung out that night, and then the next morning for a little bit, and then on Monday I had a dental visit, and so I was all drugged up. So I feel like that's why I just feel like I've lost like 2 weeks here. So in between all of that, I've been designing and then coming up with all these other projects that I want to do. So one of the things, and this is so funny, like I can't believe I'm going to say this, but one of the things that I found really calming to me this summer is to sew some knitting project bags. And I laugh at that because if you're new to the podcast, I am very new to sewing. It was something I've tried at least 10 times in my life and just was never really successful at, and I still don't consider myself a sewer, even though I do it. I have a sewing machine, I have a sewing center, and I sew. So I have a couple of bags that I finished. The first one that I made was this French themed fabric. So you've got like the Eiffel Tower over here, the little French girl and her pretty skirt, and then another one sitting on the bench, the little bicycle. And then on the flip side, I cut it so that I just love this tree. So I cut it so you could see the tree. This was a fabric that I actually saw a knitting bag in this fabric that one of the very, very skilled knitting project bag makers on Etsy, I believe. I saw it on Instagram, but I think she has an Etsy store. And I'm not sure even now which one it was, but she had one up for sale. And you guys know, like, those things go like that. So I, of course, missed getting the bag, but then I thought, hey, I could maybe find the fabric and sew it. And so I got the fabric off, I found it on an Amazon search, and I bought some of it, and I made this little bag, and I did a little cupcake as my charm, and yeah, it was fun to make. And I think I can't, well, technically I'm not supposed to show you what's in here because it's a design, but it's a hat book, right? And it's just rib right now. But this yarn is so fabulous. It is the Swan's Island yarn, and it is it's in sky blue is the colorway. It's their worsted weight, and it is 250 yards. Gauge per the label is 4.5 stitches to an inch on an 8. And I'm looking to see if it gives you 100% certified organic merino wool. And it's just absolutely beautiful. Here you can see it in a different, is this the same? Yeah. This one's actually a different, one of their different wools. But so there's that one and then this blue. And I just thought it was beautiful. And, you know, one skein for a hat. So I'm not giving too much away by showing you that it's ribbing at the bottom of a hat. There's going to be at least one of those in the book, right? Okay, so that was one bag that I made. Oh no. And then this bag is an Italian themed fabric. And if you have watched the Bakery Bears for a while, Kay had, I'm not sure if it was exactly this fabric or if it was just something similar. But anyway, when I found the French fabric, this came up in the search. And Patrick and I, our honeymoon, we went and spent a couple weeks. Actually, it was a little more than a couple weeks because of, they had like, I can't remember if it was pilots, but it was at least, there was some kind of airline employee strike and we couldn't get home. But anyway, so I wanted to make one that had some of the places in Italy that we had gone to on our honeymoon. So I made this one and I used like a little blue zipper there to kind of match the waterways, and then had this little charm that I placed on it. So, and I'll show you in the next episode what this is stuffed with, because it's all nice and full right now. So those are my finished objects that I can show you. I have other knitted items that I finished, but I just can't show you until the patterns are coming out. But I have been knitting on some other things. And one of those things, I decided that for my my little nephew who just turned 5, and then my niece who is 4, that I wanted to make them patch, which is the little pumpkin creature that Susan Claudino, who is NoKnitSherlock, her pattern came out last year. It's called Patch. And he's this little pumpkin head, and she says in the pattern, it is a paid for pattern, she says in the pattern that he was inspired by some of the characters from, I believe, the Tim Burton movies. So this is him right now. So his little body here, I had some bits of Knit Picks Tonal Swish and Canopy that I thought would be good, and it's like a brilliant green actually. And then I had some Circus peanuts, Miss Babs Yowza Whatta Skein Circus Peanuts colorway left over from my Brownie Knits 2015 block blanket along. So I made his head that. And then this is one of his arms, but his arms and legs are kind of very similar. So he'll have these little, you know, crazy arms and legs coming off with these little leaves. And I used the same body yarn for his leaves. And then I used Cascade 220 Superwash in the straw colorway as his arms and legs. So he's not quite done, but I think if I can find some time today or tomorrow, I can finish him up. And he's going to go to Raleigh. And then I think we'll see. I might switch around the colors a little bit, but I don't know. I kind of like this combination quite a bit. But I might switch them around still yet for Ella. We'll see. I thought about making her like a purple or a pink pumpkin. Maybe I'll do the body that way. I could do the body that way, because she is a super girly girl and loves pink and purple. So, and I have little safety eyes in there, and you actually make out of white fleece, and not the craft fleece, but actual like wool fleece from like the Bolt area in the fabric store. You make the eyes and then put the safety eyes on them. So I went and bought, and she says in the pattern, you know, buy as little as you can because it'll last you forever. And she's right. I went and got 1/8 of a yard, which is the smallest that they would cut. And it was only 69 cents, but I think I could probably make 20 patches out of this. So, but that's a fun little project, and I've always wanted to do, I wanted to do it last year when I saw it come out, and I just never got around to it. And then I thought I'll go ahead and do it now so that it's ready for the kids around Halloween. My other two nephews are getting old enough where, you know, that's just not a cool thing, and yeah, so they'll probably just get a card with a little money in it or something. I'm not sure yet. But I also want to make her snowball buddies, which are these little creature Christmas ornament balls. So I think what I might do for Christmas is make those to use as like the bow on each of the kids' packages, because I could actually make, you know, those into some themes that the older nephews, well, at least one of the older nephews would like. So yeah, one of them is like a preteen, so I'm not sure about him, but I'll think on it. But anyway, Snowball Buddies is really cute. And then I sort of want to make her little like Doctor Who inspired little guy. I might make him for our Christmas tree. So, and I just added another thing to the list of things to make this year. Before I forget, one of the things, we went and walked around a town that's a little bit over from us the other day and did a little bit of shopping. And I found this sweater, and I went ahead and got it for the fall. But it is so cool. I thought I'd show it to you guys because, you know, it's very like knitterly. Typically, I'm not a fringe person, but it works on this. So it is a flyaway type sweater. So the sides, you know, like hang way down and are much bigger than what you would have in a traditional sweater. But it has this ribbed collar that goes all the way around it. But then the rest of it is knit side to side and in different colors and different patterns. And I just thought it was really, really cool. And it just, you know, hangs down below in the back and open on the sides. So I was obsessed with it. I wanted to show you one other thing that I started knitting. Okay, so there's also a little announcement for this. I don't know if you guys listen to the Actually Knitting podcast. You can find her on iTunes. That's how I listen to her. I'm not sure. I think you could probably find her other places. But anyway, it's an audio podcast, Actually Knitting. And she's hosting her big knit along for the year, which is the PALKAL. So it's a podcaster, support podcasters kind of knit along. So you can enter for her giveaways and such by using a bag that's from a podcaster that you watch or listen to, or a yarn dyer podcaster that you watch or listen, or a pattern designer. So all these different things are different ways that you can participate. So I sent her an email and set up in Ravelry a PALKAL code for Brownie Knits in my Brownie Knits Ravelry store from now until September 1st. You can type in PALKAL, PALKAL 25 for 25 at checkout, and you'll get 25% off your entire order from me. And you can use it as many times as you want. So if you want to go and, you know, oh, I want to buy that pattern today and make that hat, and then you decide later that you want to go buy the mitten pattern and the cow pattern to match it, and you could do that as long as it was before the deadline. So, and if you search for Actually Knitting or PALKAL2015, you can find her spot where all of the codes from the various designers and sellers and podcasters are. And so you can use those to support the podcasts that you like to watch. And so I decided I would do a few projects. And one of the projects that I'm doing is, I had this on my list already anyway. So I'm knitting the Life of Leaves shawl that is by Christina of A Knitter's Life. And I was lucky enough to get to tech edit this pattern, and it was gorgeous, is gorgeous. And I really wanted to make it. So last year for Christmas, I also wanted to really try Eaden yarns, some of their yarn. So last year for Christmas, I asked Patrick to get me a skein of Eaden yarns, and he got me this one. And it's their gradient. It's the Ombre Slate. And I wanted it specifically for this shawl because the Life of Leaves shawl starts out with a full leaf and then works its way down through the life of a leaf where, you know, it's falling. So this will actually work really well with the gradient. So it's a little hard to tell right now because I just started, but you can sort of see like the little full leaves coming in through there. So I'm through like a chart and a half, and so this is going to be one of my PALKAL 2015 projects. So, and I love this project. It is a paid for pattern, but Christina actually is participating in the PALKAL too. If you look at her board, I think she's giving you $1 off of any pattern. I think that's how she did hers. I'm not sure where her code is. So, but you could look at her A Knitter's Life blog or her group in Ravelry and find that information out, or look on Actually Knitting. And I just realized that maybe Patch should be in my Sherlock bag since it's from NoKnitSherlock. But, oh well. Okay, so those are a couple new projects that I thought I would share today. And then let me check my list here. Okay, so I have a couple other quick announcements for you, and then I'm going to answer a few Ask the Podcaster questions. So one of the announcements is that I spent a little bit of time going through my stash yarn, and I've decided that because when I want to do something new, a lot of times I will just go and buy the yarn for it. I'm really bad about using stash yarn. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say that. I use stash yarn about 50% of the time, but there's some of it that I know I'm not going to use, and it's fantastic yarn. But you know, maybe I bought it when I was going to make something for the kids when they were little, and now they're not little. But anyway, so I went through and I put some yarns in my will sell or trade stash in Ravelry. So if you want to take a look at that, a lot of them I listed for about 50% of retail, some of them a little more depending on what kind of yarn they were. And you know, over time I'll probably add more to that. So if you're looking for something fun to knit with, you might check that out. Okay, and our giveaway. So our next giveaway will be drawn for in the mid-September podcast. I'm going to start the Ravelry thread today. So you need to be a member of the Brownie Knits group to win, and you need to comment on the thread that I'm going to start. And I've been rather obsessed with fall. I cannot believe I'm going to say this either, but you know, I love summer. I hate winter. I don't like the cold at all. But I've been really, really looking forward to fall right now. I think it's because I'm really tired from how much activity we've had this summer. It's been really fun, but I'm starting to think about fall a lot. I'm starting to think about fall hats and cozy things. And so I thought that it might be kind of fun for us to do a twofold kind of thread. And so I thought we could share our favorite fall recipes and a photo of what we might be knitting on or crocheting on or cross stitching, whatever you want to share for fall. So if you're knitting on something or making something, I guess I should say, between now and the mid-September that you're going to use this fall, share a picture of that, and or share a recipe. And you can enter as many times as you want. So if you have 5 recipes you want to share and 5 fall projects that you're going to work on, put them all up there as much as you want. And the winner of the giveaway will win this little package of goodies. So you'll win this cream colored Madeline Tosh Pashmina, a skein of that, and a skein of the Fiber Company Canopies. It's like this steely icy blue. Let's see what the colorway is. Cloud Forest. I don't know why it's named that. I probably wouldn't name it that. So you'll get these 2 skeins of yarn. You'll get this little Knitting is Naughty, a little, can't think of the word right now, sticker. This Stashbot guide, which tells you all sorts of things. So it tells you, like, if you want to make a sweater and you're getting 16, if you want to make a sweater for a 3-month-old, how many yards you would need based on your gauge. And it does that all the way through. It does sweaters, hats, neckwear, mittens, socks. So it's really a nice little thing to have. And then you'll also get these little stitch markers and these little Knit For You cards. And those all come from Prairie Bag Works, and she has an Etsy shop. And I thought this was really cute. On the back of her business card, she gives you tips for the Kitchener stitch. I thought that was cute. So anyway, you would get all of these things in the mid-September podcast giveaway. So you can enter between now and then. And again, share your favorite fall recipes and photos of what fall projects you're working on. All right, so those are the announcements, and then I'm going to answer a few Ask the Podcaster questions. So we had a giveaway earlier this year where you could ask me a question, and then I've been answering 2 to 3 an episode. So here are the next 3. What do you like to knit most of all? And this is, sorry, I should have said, this is from Bradsmom, who is Kim in Canada. And again, she says, what do you like to knit most of all? Hats. Hats are my favorite thing to knit. And that's why I design so many of them. I like to knit them. I like to make them, crochet them. I like to wear them. I like to give them away. And I just think that they're fabulous. So I did pull, a lot of my hats are in storage right now, but I did pull out this one since I'm in such a fall frame of mind. This is one that I designed a few years back when one of my nephews, my second oldest nephew, when he was little, and I made this for him and made various sizes. So it actually goes, let's see, it's my trunk show tag, so it has all the information on it. So it's 100% knitted. The sizes in the trunk show are toddler and child. So this is the child and toddler size. It is a paid for pattern. It's called the Falling Candy Corn Hat. So you could get it in Ravelry now for 25% off. And it uses 130 to 200 yards of bulky weight yarn. It's knitted on vintage chunky, which it gets 3.5 stitches over an inch on a 10 needle, but the hat is 4 stitches over stockinette unstretched. So even though you are using a chunky, you're kind of tightening up a little bit just to get that texture, that fabric. And I used their 3 colors that they had that really looked like candy corn to me. So I really loved, that was just a fun little thing to do for when the kids were little. And Eaden missed out because I didn't design it until after he was grown. But Jack had one, and I think Ella probably has worn Jack's, and then Raleigh had one too. So they're just fun little ones to do. So I thought I'd show that real quick. So the next question is from CozyCrafting, who is Abby in Roanoke, Virginia. And Abby has a wonderful podcast. Her CozyCrafting podcast is great. You can find her on YouTube. I really enjoy watching her podcast. And she also has done, I'm not sure if you're still doing it, I think you are, tutorials on various things in the past on her channel. And I just really enjoy listening to Abby talk about all of her things going on in life and what she's working on. And she also has an Etsy shop where she sells some things she makes. Where is your most favorite place to knit? So my favorite places to knit, I'm laughing because when I think of that, I think of a lot of the podcasts that are in Europe where they show these great places that they knit, and I'm thinking I'm in landlocked Indiana, and that's why I'm laughing. But my favorite places to knit, I love to sit and knit on our deck that my husband built onto the house last year. And when we moved into our house, we had grass in the front, and that was it. And so we have really, over the years, we planted a lot of trees and shrubbery and grass seed and all of that stuff. And so now it's a really nice place back there. And so I like to go out there and get in my little chair and prop up my legs and sit there and knit. And I've been eaten alive this year because I've been outside so much. We've had so much rain, so the bugs are really bad no matter how much stuff you put on. But anyway, I really do love sitting out there and knitting, and it's just kind of peaceful. A lot of times I'll put on my noise canceling headphones if there's, people like mowing and things like that. But I'll go back there, sit and hang out with Kiki and listen to some audio podcasts and just knit for hours on end. One of my other favorite places to go to knit, and we haven't gotten to do it this year because the ground has been so soaked, is this little park where actually a lot of my pattern photos are taken. There's this little hill that we like to go and sit and have a picnic, and I like to sit there and knit and hang out with Patrick, and we used to take both of the dogs with us, and it was just like a fun little outing that we would do, and it's really pretty back in there. And then I really, this is going to sound odd, but I really like to knit in the when we go to the cinema to watch a movie. If I'm not, I just feel anxious, and the movie feels a lot longer to me. So I just like having that rhythm. So usually it's just socks. Which brings me to something that I needed to say. I need to fess up. I'm calling it a day on the crocheted sock thing. I got up to the heel, and then I just never wanted to pick it up. I'm sure it's not hard. I'm sure I could do it. I just was not enjoying it. So I'm calling it a day on the sock thing. I'm going to use that yarn, which is beautiful, for something else. And I'm just going to move back to knitting my socks. So total aside, but there you go. I had to fess up. Okay, and our third question for today is from Moonface50, who is Suzanne in Essex in the UK. And she says, what do you like to watch on TV while knitting? My favorite, so there are certain shows when they're brand new, so not reruns, that I love to knit while I'm watching them and not be interrupted by anything, i.e. taking the dog out or somebody walking in, or somebody knocking on the door, the phone ringing, whatever. I love Supernatural, and I also really, really like The Good Wife. I'm sure there are other shows that I'm such a TV fanatic that there are a zillion that I can name, but I'll leave it with just those two because I really enjoy just kind of zoning out and getting in the story and just knitting along. And who doesn't love knitting to Outlander? Like, I just, of course, love that. And then if I can find something to binge watch on Netflix and really it just completely draws me in, I love to do that too. And then I'll binge watch podcasts. I've been very bad this summer about keeping up with everybody's podcast. And so this week I've been trying to watch the latest 5 episodes of the podcasters that I subscribe to. So trying to catch back up. A lot of them, though, haven't podcasted as much this summer. So I think everybody kind of slows down a little bit and then picks back up in the fall. So I wasn't as far behind as I thought I might have been. And then in the summertime, I'm finding that, like I mentioned, I like to sit back on the deck and knit. And I have been completely obsessed with the Serial podcast, Undisclosed, which is the same case, some other podcasts that are tangential to that series, the Moth podcast, and Mortified. Have you guys heard of Mortified? It is mortifying. I think I might have mentioned it on the last podcast. It's an audio podcast where people get up and read their writings from when they were children. It's hysterical. It is not G-rated. And every time I think I would be beyond mortified. There's no way you would ever get me to do it. I actually found my diary from grade school the other day and read through a little bit of it, and it was hysterical too. It was PG. I wouldn't say it was G, but it was not like as out there as some of those are. And I feel like I'm forgetting. Oh, I really like the Mystery Show podcast. It's an audio podcast. So if you guys have audio podcasts that you like to listen to, if you could share those with me, I would love that. Because right now I'm sitting outside and knitting so much that I'm consuming those way faster than they can come out. So if you want to share, I would love that. All right, so I think that's everything for today. I will see you shortly in one short week. So until then, happy knitting and crocheting. Bye-bye.